So, welcome everyone to a journey of transformation. Let me start my screen sharing. Just one moment here. So, let me share my screen. And we'll get going. So, welcome to a journey of transformation. And I'm wondering if you've ever really wanted to live a life you'd love to live. I know that's what one of my driving forces has been. So this image here kind of symbolizes a younger me setting out on a new path. And there's some blue skies up there. There's some clouds. There's some terrain that I can't quite see what's in my future, but I know this is the path that I'm meant to take. So imagine a life where you're not just surviving, but you're thriving, where each day is a step towards living your truest nature, your truest self, and where happiness becomes your constant companion. And happiness isn't actually, it's more of a joy that's within you, that is alive no matter what other feelings are happening. Well, I want to acknowledge this is not just a distant dream, it is an achievable reality. So first, let me share a little bit about myself. My background started back in the 80s, first in business administration and then in the medical field, managing people and creating systems. And I really loved working with people. So after 15 years, the doorway opened for me to pursue a 4-year counselor certification full-time. That was back in 1998. And it was quite an investment. And my husband was right on board with it. And during that time, I volunteered at a nonprofit, both to have an experience and to give back to my community while making a positive impact. And I was taking care of my aging father who passed just before I graduated. I have 5 beautiful children, 6 in total, but 5 that are still with me. And they span 23 years from the oldest to youngest. And when I first designed this system, I was struggling as a mother to communicate effectively. I was seeking ways to support my youngest child in developing the new neural pathways that his nervous system needed, because he'd been born with birth trauma and he was hypersensitive to any environment, both his inner and his outer. By the time he was 5, he was exhibiting what I called limbic burst, which were intense stress reactions to sound, touch, light, and texture. And that profound stress response that he had triggered a latent trauma response within me. And I would literally freeze in the moment. And it was very debilitating. It did absolutely nothing to calm the environment. And I ran these thoughts inside of myself that was like, there's something wrong with me. Why can't I just stay present? I don't know what to do. This is too much. I can't handle this. And that didn't help. But it did ignite a new desire within me to understand how we as humans grow and develop. I wanted to understand at a cellular level how it's possible to lay down the new neural pathways in order to thrive. And so my love for my child would empower me to have the courage to take the steps I needed for my own deeper healing. And I want to acknowledge these pictures here. The top left is my youngest 2 children, and the top center is myself and my youngest child. And that picture was captured by my second son in a moment where my youngest had had a limbic burst, and I was able to just be present with him and he could come back. The top right shows all of my kids and grandkids that were there at that time. And there's myself with my children on the bottom left. And the bottom right is the first retreat that I held at my ranch in order to invite people to begin to step into this way of being in relationship with others. And so it really marks, I don't know, me taking the action steps to move forward with my life in a different way. What I did was I had absolute years of in-person and online training. I traveled to NVC family camps with my two youngest children, and then I traveled to teach these skills to other professionals. I've had a lot of studies. I've done so many courses upon courses in the fields of trauma and energy medicine, constellation work, energy psychology, and neuroscience. And my intention was to absorb and embody all of this valuable information in order to create a new environment, not just for my own personal family interactions. I wanted to be able to interact with all people this way. And this container became such a sacred space that it didn't only nurture my youngest son unconditionally, it empowered me to develop my capacity to stay present in all my relationships, especially with myself, where I would disappear. And I became empowered to really stay truly present and heart centered, especially in the face of stress. So I've been in the counseling and coaching industry now for over 25 years. And I combined strands from all of these techniques to create the system I derived from my time spent in nature, using the analogy of two trees, which represents the two pathways of energy that's available to all of us in life. And this has proven to transform not only my son's life and my relationships, it's also magnified the therapeutic outcomes in the lives of my clients and their clients, which is creating a ripple effect of goodwill in our world. So I want to invite you to have an exercise with me, which is going to be about circle work. And so I'll come back to this slide in a little bit. Let's see here. This might be a little messy, so let me just pause for a second. Okay, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with circles, I use circles a lot in my work. And a circle is an ancient symbol that's used in ceremony because they define very powerful spaces. And you can use it to define a certain space or an energy that you can then step into and become one with that energy. Constellation facilitators use this when they're reading your field for your life, for your relationships, or for your work, whatever your focus of intention is, or what you have a question around. And they'll either put like a circle on the floor or mats on the floor, or they'll designate a space and get you to step in and feel what it's like to experience that aspect of your life. So this is a similar flavor to what we're doing here with a circle. We're going to use these circles to step powerfully into the energy of two aspects of yourself as they relate to your communication. One is the aspect of your roles that you took on in life, and the other aspect of you is you as your greatness, as your highest and best self, your truth. So I'd like you to have a piece of paper and something to draw with. And what I'd like you to do is on the piece of paper, draw a circle on it. And it can be any size, whatever size you like. It doesn't really matter. And inside of the circle, write the word roles, R-O-L-E-S. Because first we're going to look at the lower energy. And I'll lead you through everything, so you don't need to worry. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be stepping into this energy. And you're going to become one with the energy of your roles, the roles that you've taken on in life. And so, and you'll be able to see the way that this feeds your life, and you'll see what that looks like. So once you've got your circle on the paper, I'll invite you to close your eyes and to come into a guided visualization. So giving yourself a moment to just imagine just having a circle all the way around you, and that this circle represents your sovereign space. And that in your circle, that this is your time to be of service to yourself. And so just letting go of your day, of what's to come, letting go of others and whatever you might have in your field. Just acknowledging that and letting it go and bringing all of your energy into your own circle. And for a moment, just noticing where you are right now, noticing what is your emotional state, noticing what are your thoughts, noticing what it feels like to be in your body at this time. And whatever you might be observing about yourself, we're allowing this to be your starting point for today. And it's neither good nor bad, it's just a starting point. And then taking a moment to set the intention to receive the benefit of this exercise today. And once you've done that, I'm just inviting you to fall into a state of what I call innocence, a state where you don't have to work anything out anymore. You can just imagine your mind turning to water and it's falling away. It's leaving you in an open, receptive space. And then imagine that in front of you is a circle that holds the energy of the roles that you've taken on in life. And when you're ready, you can step into that circle and you can stay with the energy and notice what's obvious about it to you. Notice what you play out that takes you further away from your true self. And as you begin to receive what's obvious, I invite you to start writing things down. Go ahead and write down things on your paper, what you see as things as they come to you. Notice what aspects of you turned your back on yourself. Notice what life has become about. Write it all down. Write down, what do you deem to be good, even though it doesn't serve your life? Notice the way that you act this out in the world. Notice your talk style in relationship to your roles. What aspects of you don't you want to allow out? What could be bad? What does it feel like? What are the emotions? Notice the way that you set yourself up in this dynamic. What do you have to do to manipulate, to get what you want? What's the setup? What's your assumption about you having what you want? How do you believe you have to be and show up? Where do you perceive the power to be? Just noticing your inner self definitions. How do you see others in relation to you having what you want? And noticing what you play out. What do you see yourself doing? And what does that set up? We'll start to wrap up on this so-called role of communication. And yet let's first acknowledge that battle of roles and noticing how crummy and sucky that actually feels. And just now choosing to take responsibility for that part of yourself and pulling all of that energy back in, taking ownership, owning what you do. You now have a choice about moving forward in a powerful way with all of your energy available for you. So just now imagine a circle of truth. You can draw another circle. You can flip over that page, draw a new circle, and write in it truth. where you're connected to a higher intention. You're going direct. You're speaking from the heart. So when you have that circle drawn, I invite you to step in there with your eyes closed. Step in where you are in integrity. And imagine that you can step in and start to become one with this energy where you are connected to your desire, a higher outcome. And in this space, notice, how do you go about things? Notice how you relate to yourself, how you relate to others in the world from the circle of truth. Notice how you speak from this place. Notice how you're taking action from here. Notice what that sets up. What possibilities open up? What energy is there? What is true for you to give? Why don't you take a moment just to write it all down? Notice everything that you've been receiving from this circle of truth. Noticing how you speak to yourself, how you speak to others, recognizing how you take action. And when you take action from this circle of truth, what does that set up in your life? What are the possibilities that open up? We're going to start wrapping up here, and we're going to move on to the bridge or into the bridge. And we're staying with this energy of your circle of truth. And from there, I invite you to look back at your circle of roles where you're out of integrity. And as you stand there in your circle of truth, looking at your circle of roles, what's obvious to you? In order to be in your truth, what have you let go of? In order to stand in your truth, what did you make a stand for? What action was there that you took that allowed you to start coming from your circle of truth and having empowered communication? Just write that down. What is that action that you took that allowed you to have empowered communication? And now I know that it might be vulnerable. If you feel willing to name it, then I'd love for you to um, maybe note down in the chat that you are willing to share. And we have shares that allows us to begin to assimilate that experience. And if that doesn't feel welcome, then I invite you to then send me a note later and let me know so that you have a way of being seen and heard around what this is like for you to experience. I want to acknowledge myself that put a few notes down. I want to make sure that I was able to share because, the first one, the circle of roles, that's really a low vibration. It's a low frequency. Um, so, and then the circle of truth, that's a very high frequency. So depending on what you take action on, it actually creates your reality. You're either creating it from the low survival frequency, or you're creating it from the high level that's love and above. So just to recognize, as I've moved through this, to recognize when I'm creating an empowered choice Or am I creating a dysfunctional, disempowered choice? And in becoming awake to these two different aspects, this is where I realized I actually have a choice because most of my life I didn't know how to make a choice. I lived my life from the frequency of feeling like I was a victim. I was in fear, I was in survival. And I had so much chatter in my head that if I tried to have a conversation with somebody, I would just go into freeze because I'd go into overwhelm because I really believed I was a disempowered person. I wasn't allowed to be powerful. I wasn't allowed to be successful. So it's important to really recognize that when you make a decision, to recognize, am I coming out of the energy of the fear and survival basis that we experience as humans? Or have I taken the time to really come into my heart, into my truth, into my true nature? And from there, recognize why I've come here, who I've come here to be, and to take action from there. And that is what I call the fork in the road. When we take that, when we're standing at that fork in the road, we can actually vibrationally feel the difference of which path we're going to move down. And when we can start to appreciate and recognize what we do that creates our experiences, then we can't deny what we do that actually creates our world. So it's important. Are we taking action unconsciously or consciously? Yeah. So thank you. Somebody wrote in, says, I stepped into this class from a powerless place and coming into my truth. I started to actually see who I really am. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for that vulnerable share. I so appreciate that. It's true. I know I actually woke up in the middle of the night last night and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm doing this webinar tomorrow. And I was just all up in arms about it and had all of these thoughts flying to my head about what am I going to do and how is it going to be and what will other people think about me? And I recognized the pattern. I slowed it down and I came back into my heart and I recognized what I love. And I absolutely loved putting this together. I loved finding the visuals and the imagery of what it's going to be. And I said, I'm just looking forward to playing with whoever shows up and creating something so that others that weren't able to be here live are able to come and get to have an experience anyways. So thank you for being here with me. But what I recognize on these two paths, one of the paths that I recognize is I've used it as a tree of knowledge. And the tree of knowledge is really fear-based and it's really worried about what other people think of them. And we either judging ourselves, judging others, we're feeling shameful about ourselves or shameful about others, and it can be a very vicious cycle. And the other path, the fork in the road, is the tree of life. And the heart of this is love and it's not the love of the emotion that humans talk about mainly. It's a frequency of life that is really empowering and it has compassion for all of life and acceptance of all of life. There's no judgment in it. It's truth. And when we can recognize we're always having these streams of energy available to us, when we're born into a world kind of on the wrong track. We're born into a human experience as a spiritual being. And for many of us, those first 7 years or so of our life, we don't have choice. We just, life happens to us instead of happening for us. And there are so many imprints that happen in our experience that we make it mean that that's who we are. And it's not true. So when we can begin to slow down and be in relationships of trust, where we can start to experience being recognized for who we truly are and our greatness, and also that we have the freedom to acknowledge the patterns of the past that have been running us and we can own them and we can take our power back, we can begin to see action steps that we couldn't ever see before. We can be empowered to begin to create something different in our lives that we actually love and enjoy. And that can be astonishing to do, especially in community when we create a space that others are welcome to show up as they are, miracles happen. So what's happened for me as I was going through life is I would project my past experiences and beliefs or definitions out into the world or onto myself, and I would be a victim and I would feel like I was incomplete in some way. I was looking and calling for energy outside of myself to fix me, and I was like a victim. I just needed energy. And it really created very low level results in my life. But what happens then is my beliefs were there to reinforce themselves. And as my belief would create my reality, it would reinforce the belief. And it would just, oh, it was a vicious wheel. And it just reinforced who I was, and it reinforced who others were in the world, and it reinforced how I even saw how the world is. And yet, as I have been down this path and I have had the support and the empowerment to step into my heart and to step into the highest version of myself, this now relates to what I actually love, the desire that I have in my heart and into my truth. And it's a higher focus and it's a higher intention. So when I can recognize those lower frequencies and vibrations, those fundamental beliefs that were imprinted, that they're always there. I'm not going to try to fix them or get rid of them or blame them or shame them. I want to see them clearly and acknowledge them. When I name them, and especially when I name them in community or in relationship with others, um, something happens energetically. When I bring in the higher frequency over the lower frequency, there's a transmutation that happens. The shadows, when they're in the light, they just slip away. They don't, the power slips away. I even feel that in my body. In fact, there's a surge of empowerment, of energy, of vitality, and there's a sense of knowing of what my next step actually is. And so it's a powerful place to be able to recognize that. And from that space, as I had you walk through this exercise, from there you look over with compassionate understanding at the lower frequency self, at the roles that you became, that's not who you truly are. And when you recognize that, you can see clearly what your next step is to take. So for me, with this last night, I woke up and thought, I'm just going to go with what is. I'm going to speak from my heart because that's how I created the course. And it's been just a magical journey, even putting together the bits and pieces around it and coming up with new content to have as bonuses to make it a very rich and beautiful journey for everyone. But to just share transparently and vulnerably, inviting people to come into this way of being in relationship with one another. So I think I'll just have that be, let's see, let me share my screen again. All right, so who is this new course for? It's a 6-week course that starts on March 25th. It's Divine Pathways. And I designed this for individuals who are seeking to deepen their spiritual connection with their higher self, to expand their consciousness, and to align with their higher purpose. So whether you're on a journey of personal growth, spiritual exploration, or simply seeking clarity in your life's direction, this course offers valuable insights and practices to support you. It's for those who are ready. They're ready to make a choice. They're ready to make a decision. They really desire to transform their journey of self-discovery. They'll be guided by ancient wisdom and modern teachings. So whether you are new to spirituality or you've been on the path for some time, this course provides a nurturing and supportive environment for you to learn, explore, and grow. What you will receive, some of what it will be is this, but there is more that you'll discover over the next few days. There's access to comprehensive course materials, including video lectures, guided meditations, and written resources. You'll get personal support and guidance from me throughout the duration of the course, and there'll be opportunities for interactive discussions and engagement with a supportive community of fellow participants. We will be diving into some practical exercises and experiential tools to help integrate the spiritual teachings into your daily life, which will foster lasting transformation and growth. In Module 1, we will dip into consciousness. What is it? Into the vision of what is it you want and where actually are you? And that's what puts you at the fork of the road. On the left side, that's where you are right now in your understanding, in your comprehension, in your reality, current reality. And on the left, there's a different path. There's the path of your higher self, of what you really love and what you really would love to experience in life. And how do you bridge that gap? That's what we will be looking at. And it begins by recognizing your values, your true heart values. Those are the foundation of life itself. And we will begin to explore what conscious focus even looks like and what are the different aspects of consciousness. In Module 2, we will take a deep dive into our fundamental beliefs, because our beliefs actually do create our reality. When we have a belief, it creates our experience, and our experience then reinforces that the belief was true, and it keeps a hamster wheel going round and round and round. That I know when I was a younger woman, I think I was 24 going on 25, and I'm driving down the highway in Texas, and it was like I had a bing go off in my head, a little light bulb. And I'm like, what am I doing? I keep having this experience in my life where I get a job and I show up and I'm there, and then all of a sudden I have these perceived conflicts, or I'm just not good enough, or I don't fit in, and it just doesn't feel good. So I go get a different job, and the same thing would happen over and over and over, where I just felt less than. I felt a lack in my life. And at that time, I thought, I'm going to do something different. So it was a first experience of how I was able to pop the bubble of my perception, where I actually had a choice. It's like I could see a pattern. Well, if we can't identify those repeating patterns in our life, they just keep shaping our reality. They shape the way we experience ourselves, our identity, who others are, and who the world is. But on this journey in Divine Pathways, you'll get to step into discovering the power of reclaiming your own innocence, and how that actually does pop that bubble of perception that has been imprinted on you, that you never gave permission for that. You didn't give consent. So you're going to take your power back. In Module 3, we will explore the two trees of awareness. And we'll, using the analogy of the two trees, the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, the tree of knowledge that's really rooted in fear, a fear base, and is really stuck in the head and worried about what people think or who you are, and really looking outside of yourself for the answers, and really getting how that influence of those beliefs really impact the end result of what it's like to be you. And being able to step into that tree of life, into your higher essence, your higher true essential self, and begin to recognize your true gifts and talents, that empowers you to actually rewrite your story, to actually claim your truth. And then it's really easy, it's effortless to actually let go of the impact, or what's the word? It's like those past experiences tend to have a bite to them. They have such an intensity when they're running your world then and creating your reality, that they hook you. And yet when you recognize the truth, it sets you free. And you can easily let go of those past experiences and take your power back. In Module 4, we will really explore tension. What is tension? Everything in the whole world is created by tension. The universe itself is unfolding from within itself from a tension, and it's constantly creating. So really getting to understand, what is your soul's tension? What is it that you're here to create? What are your gifts and talents? What is your expression that is meant to be sung here, your note in the orchestra of life? What is it that's just dying to be revealed? And what is it that tension that keeps you small, that keeps you limited, that keeps you in these boundaries, keeps you boxed in? That's your egoic tension. And there's a psychological tension with it that comes in with your thoughts and your feelings. And in this exploration in divine pathways, you'll be empowered to recognize that egoic tension, that psychological tension, and actually pull it back into your heart to be like the arrow on a very sure bow, that when you let it loose, it flies straight to its target and is a bullseye. And part of that is recognizing what are the ways that you resolve tension now. When you have that, you get hooked by your beliefs, you get hooked by the intensity of the feelings or the thoughts. What do you do to make that tension go away? Well, you recognize, does that truly serve your life or not? And for myself, I was really felt like a lost child in the uh, what would it be? It would be like a cesspool of shame, and it just was drowning me. But by stepping onto this path, it's like I could be like on a Star Wars Jedi, and my energy could just come up above that cesspool and recognize it for what it truly was. It was had nothing to do with me. I had no identification with it at all. I had the freedom to actually take the actions from my heart. And that's really empowering, to allow yourself to receive the abundance from life with no shame at all. In Module 5, we will be taking responsibility for ourselves. And a part of that is understanding that knowledge base, not making it right or wrong, but really, truly recognizing what it serves, survival. There's nothing wrong with surviving. And yet, there's a lot of wonderment that can happen when you can move from surviving all the time to thriving in your life. And it sets you free to be who you came here to be, a light in the world that can light up other people's lives as well. And to join together in a community where you have a shared reality and a shared focus and intention. And a big part of that is learning how to bridge the gap. What does it look like, that bridge between what the suffering has been in your life and what is the empowerment that you're here to make known? How do you bridge that gap? How do you navigate the role of all your thoughts and feelings and beliefs? How do you be with them without making them wrong, without making them right, without defending them or justifying them or explaining them to people? Well, one way that we can begin to engage with that is by doing some time travel meditation, where you get to have the experience of being accompanied in your life and being accompanied to actually see yourself through eyes that see the true you, your true essence. And you get to choose a new story. You get to choose to live a life and have a second chance at life that's really magical and beautiful and true. And in the sixth module, we will be really exploring our heart's determination, the power of the heart in conscious creation. We're constantly creating, yet do we have conscious awareness of what we are creating? Do we take responsibility for what we're creating? When we stand at that fork in the road, we can be honest with ourselves. We can actually recognize where we've been. We can see where we actually are on our hero's journey. And we can learn how to gentle the dragon within us. And we don't have to perceive it as a nasty, horrible, mean dragon. We can watch as it transmutes right before our eyes. And it actually brings power into our world that allows us to turn lead into gold, which is the art of alchemy. The lead in this analogy here is all of those shadow beliefs, all of those things that we are ashamed of. We don't want anybody to know because nobody's going to like us if they know them. We get to see the truth, and that transmutes that lead into the beauty of gold. And life is forever different. So here we are. the grand opening for Divine Pathways. So if you're interested, make sure you check it out now because the fast action bonus of my guided meditation series, Nurturing Spiritual Growth and Inner Peace, disappears in 48 hours. There'll be an introduction to spirituality, and then there's 5 guided visualizations, meditations to deepen your practice and to support you right where you are. And today, registration's open. You can have the choice of one installment for $495, or there's 2 installments of $250. You get started at my website, glorialeibecker.com, and there will be more gifts available as the journey continues. We will close the enrollment on March 22nd. The course starts on March 25th. I look forward to seeing you there. So I want to thank you for being here today with me, and also thank you for watching later. And again, I just invite you to reach out to me and let me know what really spoke to you, what it was like to go through that experiential exercise. And now I want to announce the winners. We had gosh, let me just have a tongue twister here. We got to have life challenges. We did a 7-day life challenges event, and it was really great fun. And we had some really deep and rich learning that came from that. And there were 3 prizes that were available to be won. And I want to announce our 3rd prize is going out to Austin. And so Austin Florick, you won our 3rd prize. So you will be getting my ebook. I will be sending it to you shortly. Congratulations, and thanks for participating. And our 2nd prize, we actually had a tie for 2nd place. And the 2nd place receives 25% off of the course Divine Pathways. And that prize goes out to Ruth Cray and Gail Donahue. So congratulations, Ruth and Gail. And our grand prize came, it was like if you were at a horse track and you were going to bet on a horse, you would have wanted to bet on this horse because it looked like that one was going to come in last. And in the last few days, Rhoda Ingstad, she got on her pony and she went for it. And she did some deep, deep work and showed up. And she now gets to have the grand prize, the gold, 50% off of the course, Divine Pathways. I look forward to getting to journey with you. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. And I look forward to our continued journey together.